Hello everyone, my name's Hectic and welcome back, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of buffing and nerfing that Riot has done and why I don't think that some of them should have really been buffed or nerfed in a lot of ways. Um, because a lot of, and this is including agents and stuff I'm going to cover in this, but also weapons as well. Some of these changes over time that Riot has done to, let's start off with their agent. The changes over time they've done to the agents have been both good and bad. I think there's been a lot more bad than good. I think Riot, when they nerf some people, they nerf them fairly hard. There's some small ones that are small changes that are not felt, but there's also been some other small changes that have really hit hard. So let's go through each of the agents briefly and talk about should Riot have buffed or nerfed them or kept them the same. And then that Phoenix, I like the idea of the buff. I think maybe a rework within that. I have posted a video where I rant about how Phoenix is a trash agent. I sort of still agree with that. I kind of don't. I just think there's better options for Phoenix. But I mean, if you're going to use Phoenix, it's fine, yes. But there are worse options than Phoenix. Yeah. But there's also better options. So it's a medium. I would personally say stay away from him, but whatnot. Now for the rant, I think the bots to him is what was needed. I didn't expect a higher pick rate. It didn't tempt me to play Phoenix much more, because just why play it when we can have just a Viper and a Sky on our team, and that basically takes care of like 90% of Phoenix's util right there. So I think the Phoenix bots, do I think should have been? I would say yes. I think he was in some needs of some of those buffs, but also I'm like screwed. I'm in between. No, he didn't really need a buff or a nerf. They could have stayed the same. To yeah, the buffs are fine, because I don't think that it really changes in too much. Like I still say, just if you're going to use a wall or use a flash or even a molly, just run a brimstone, maybe a sky or breach or something, and run a viper. Yeah, where all three of them have equally better util than all three of those combined. This is basically three agents trying to match in one, and you could just run three separate agents with even better, with more abilities attached onto that than trying to cover three. Yes. So that's interesting. Raze is fine where she is. I'm not really going on to that. They keep messing with her boombot like health. They're gonna make her health, the boombot's health, a little less, which is I think that's a bit better, at least for people who are on the receiving end, because it takes so much to shoot now. The price, that I'm glad they brought that back down from 400 to 300, 100 back to the original, because that was just absurd. I don't think Raze really gets touched too much, really, because she's in a good spot. So I could say she's fine where she is. She's gonna receive a little bit of like nerf-ish or buffs-ish. They're basically gonna make whatever thing can be destroyed not so destroyable. So wait, so Reyna, I think definitely didn't need a buff. Is it just me or not, or can the eyes not be destroyed anymore? I feel like they can't. But Reyna's an example of one of those that's just like, why use Reyna at all? Yes, at that rate you might as well just have no abilities and just run with just guns. It's basically what you need to basically what makes it feel. I think this is a bit insulting to what FPS games are in general. I think at this rate you might as well just make it Counter Strike. Yeah, Reina, like when I said there's worse options than Phoenix, I'm talking about Reina. Yeah, I won't deny the benefits of having to dismiss and reposition within that, which is fine. Okay. The self heal, it's still a self heal. You could still get more value if you held the team within that, but okay. Self value, I debate all the time whether getting kills is really, if that is really the maximum value. I mean, why even have abilities in Valorant in the first place? Yes, if that's the pen ultimate, if I've had people argue with me before, is just getting kills doesn't provide the most value, and then people are like, no value. It's like you literally like knocked off one of their teammates within that, and I'm like, yeah, but we did that with guns, not abilities. Yeah, you didn't get kills with ability. So at that point, like, why have abilities in Valorant at all? So this would just be a rebooted Counter Strike at this point. If you're going to make that argument, I seriously think just remove the abilities. So would I say getting kills like and having self sustaining abilities like self heals and whatnot provide a lot of value? Not to a team, to yourself, yeah. And this is a team based game, so I'd say no, it does not provide a lot of value. So Reina, I think quite honestly though, I just think Reina is just a menace within that. Do I think she need a nerf? I just don't know. I think my brain keeps telling me just remove her completely, but I just don't know. Reina just makes me mad. Sage is a weird one. I think there's good value to having Sage. The Resurrect is really really good. Um, the ability to self heal and heal your team is really, that's a valuable choice that you can. That's one that I don't mind having a self heal with, because you can do, like, even with Phoenix, if you like self heal with a molly or a wall, I mean, they still have another purpose. You can block off a sight line while doing so, or you can molly a place while doing so. Reina is just, it's just a self heal. Sage's heal, you have the choice of healing ally or yourself. There are situations where you can. Riot's going to tamper with that in an upcoming patch where it's only going to heal you for 30 instead of 60, and it's going to heal more with the team. I don't agree with that, because at that point you're basically going to force us into saying heal allies instead, and then I'm like, Sky exists. So that's kind of what the purpose of this Sky ability is, to team heal, not self heal, as opposed to Sage, where you could team heal slower, or you could self heal. Yeah, I would rather have this double. That I would rather have these two at separate, as opposed to having two that just team heal. While I think, well, yes, Sky's heal's gonna be faster, don't rid us the option now of self healing. Yeah, because then at that point you're gonna get to a point, and this one's not me throwing in an opinion. I'm going to say, if that's the route you're wanting to take, right, you're going to get to a point where Sky's heal's gonna be useless at that point, and you're gonna have just competition between these two just as far as healing. They're gonna be endlessly buffed and nerfed until they're trying to be balanced on the same end, and then at that point it's like, just make one of them be able to heal and the other one not. Yeah, so I don't agree with that. Sage's slow orbs, I'm not gonna talk on this much, but slow orbs are garbage. One, everybody just walks through them anyway. I can understand if you're trying to stop a rush, but also second point is that means that they slowed down, which gives them better accuracy, and that can give them a better shot on you. So, if you want to stop rushes, just use concussed. Just use a breach, fault line, or basically any concussing ability rather than a slow orb. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's good in a comboing sense, because you do have breach and you do have, you could, even a neon concuss is actually pretty good. You can get like two or three people in with a neon concuss if you place it right. A sage slow orb is just no. The sage wall is pretty good. I like the versatility within that, but if you're going to use for an actual wall, there's better walls you could use. But I like that it's a little bit more permanent within that. So buffed or nerf, I think this one just should have stayed the same. They shouldn't have touched Sage. But yeah, Sky, quite honestly, the only problem I have with Sky is just why are characters so expensive now? Yeah, this whole economy change was not good. I don't think, but I could see why. Remember when Sky had 3 flashes? I think. Yeah, they never, you never had to take away those. Yeah. I could probably see why you wanted to do that, but there was a reason why 3 flashes is actually beneficial. Yeah. I know you don't want us dumping on that, but we could still dump 2 flashes on you, and that's still powerful. 3 flashes, it only hurts the attack, because then you're like, now we have, if the strategy is, oh, then use your flashes and start in a certain situation. And this, now if you have to think about where you're using the flashes, then I think that you're thinking a little bit too hard. Yeah, should be able to flash at will and have enough flashes for that. I'm not saying have infinite flashes, but 3 flashes is actually not bad for a character. There's situations where you probably should need 3 flashes compared to 2. Yeah, these Seekers are pretty good. I'm not going to touch on that too much. I'm just saying just why do that. I think Sky should have stayed the same. Sova should have just stayed where he is. Why did you nerf the shock dart? Like, why? It doesn't really change anything. Now you're just forcing us to double shock dart lineups, or if not, they're still fine for what it is. Yeah. Recon Bolt's still pretty good. Owl Drone, this is also another one that you did not have to nerf. I know I created the strat where you just let the Owl Drone hover between 2 angles, and if I discovered that before the nerf to the timing nerf to the drone, that would have been super powerful of a tactic. But yeah, you didn't have to hit that. There was no need for that. It's all, you didn't touch the alt, so that's fine. But why did you touch both of these abilities? There was no need for that. Yeah, Sova needed to stay the same. A lot of these characters needed to stay the same. I think Viper might have needed buff / nerf. I think her ult, if as long as you get trapped in there, is pretty OP within that, especially if you have a stinger. If you're the Viper and you have a stinger or some sort of shotgun as well, that's pretty powerful within that. I think that's just pretty OP. Now that you can stay a little bit outside of the ult, makes it very interesting, but also the ult can hurt you a little bit because you want to be constantly moving in there, because we're going to be thrown. Because to counter the ult, you just need something with info, or you need to be spraying in there. Yeah, that's how you counter the ult. Yeah, and if you stay in one place, like previously, what uh, used to be the use for the ult was you just stayed in there and got kills. But now it's like move around a little bit because the Viper ult can be a little bit easy to counter. Yes, it's still like I hate going into there if I'm not playing some sort of info gathering character. But this wall, um, the only thing that's really nerfed on that is like the cooldowns on that, and I I don't know. Still, I think the best, if not one of the best walls in the game. I think Carver's is better just because it's curved. Poison Cloud, okay, and Snakebite is pretty good as a molly. So I think that they could have kept that the same. The Yoru buffs. I'm not gonna go over all of these. Is dude. Dude, he needed that buff. He needed all of this. I think Riot did a great job within that. But you made him an absolute menace. Like, I hate him because he's actually that good. And if you can't use Yoru, well, you're not gonna get any value. But what also makes me mad is just the teleport. Yoru's are becoming so predictable now, but they still get kills out of that. Like, the teleports is just it. Like, even with the ults, like it's either ult or the teleport. Like they'll just ult behind you, flash before they pull out, they get out of there. You're still flashed, and then they kill you. Like you expect that too. Like you're looking behind, and you hear that sound, but boom, they flash you like right before it. Like I know that's gonna happen, but I get killed anyway because of that. So Yoru goated, Astra. The only thing that I think with Astra, I think Astra's still good in the right hands. The only problem within that, you didn't have to take away a star. Yeah, you didn't need to do that. In fact, it didn't change Astra's power level at all. To have 5 stars, everybody stopped playing Astra because oh, it's down 1 star, and then I mean, I played Astra both when she had 5 stars and 4 stars, and to me, she still has the same power level. Like, dude, it really doesn't matter. It's just now inconvenient that you don't have that 5th star. There's no need to take it away. In fact, it just helps more with that piece of utility. Yeah. In fact, there's a lot more situation where it would be more beneficial if we had 5 stars compared to 4. But yeah. Astra, why did you nerf Astra like that? Yeah, you didn't have to do that. Some of the cooldowns are a little bit ridiculous as well. But you didn't have to hit Astra like that. Like, there's no need to. You could have just left her the same. And she would have faded eventually. But quite honestly, I think she was also slept on. Not Breach. It's another one of those, just why did you take away a flash? Breach is, I love Breach, A, for its stop rush defense, which now that Split's coming back, I can use the strat again, where I fault line B main on Split and then use an aftershock. And most of the time I get a kill or two by doing that. And it's really fun if you do that. I love also util dumping within that. His ult is basically free sight, especially combined with Fade ult. But my only thing is also this is one of the most expensive characters now. Like $250 for a flash plus $200 for an aftershock. Like that's $700 just on these abilities, which, and you're spending $500 on a bit on flashes that you probably should have. And it's the same thing with Skye as well, except for Skye has her heal at 150 as opposed to 200. With that, then I'm just like, why? Yep. Despite these flashes, it was fine when we had 3 flashes. Yet flashes could still be devastating nowadays within placing that. That's also another video for another time. Except for a few flashes, I feel like blinds are just not really that powerful anymore, unless we're just still playing in that realm where people are just not using flashes correctly, which could be the case. I could understand that, but like dude. Brimstone, I think I like the changes within that, making the smokes last longer and whatnot. Why did you go down to one stim beacon? Just go down to two. This was also the most slept on ability out of all of them. Brim stim beacon has always been good. Just you guys have not used. No one has used it in the right situations. Yeah, I knew I had to use a stim beacon. Well, but now that it gets faster speed and whatnot, if we had two of these, that would have been nice. Yeah. But now it's more like a tactical, like, okay, one time type of thing. They're trying to make it to where it's like faster speed as opposed to like the fast fire of the stim beacon actually like helps a little bit. I think it even boosted with the Reyna ult too. It's pretty good. I think he should have just left him at the same. Well, I think he needed that buff and left it at the same. Chamber, I'm glad that he's getting demolished. As far as this is when I'm not gonna rant on Chamber. I have a separate video on that. Please go watch that. Chamber, I think, is another character that I think is just insulting to Valorant. Literally, like, why do we have two abilities here that are literally guns in Valorant? Like, two abilities that are guns, like, so it's this basically gave me the reason why, like, why do we have abilities in here? If we have these abilities in the game, why even, and they're that powerful, why even buy a gun ever in there? And two, why aren't just these guns in Valorant instead? Yeah, you could have a better operator slate, or just put these buffs onto an operator. The same thing for this with the sheriff. Like, why? Also, the trademark makes me so mad about all of these. Just the sentinel role, I think you need to just change that. Can't you change the emblem as far as that? Yeah, trademark, I'm just mad about this. The rendezvous is the only good part about that, and yet Riot's hitting that, so they're just deleting Chamber, which I'd be happy if they just removed him from the game. Okay. I like it from a lore perspective, but just from a gameplay perspective, there's no need for a character like Chamber in the game. Cypher, I like the buffs. I think I do. I think the Neural Theft ult is pretty good. I think, although if they left in the same, it would have been fine. Yes, I just think people just gravitated towards Killjoy because she received a bunch of nerfs and whatnot. I used Cypher in some situations more than I used Killjoy. In sometimes, I mean, info's still a powerful thing, but I think these bots make him really, really still a viable choice. Fade, I think Fade needs a buff, quite honestly. A Prowler is just worse Skydog, unless you have Fear Trails. The Seize is a comboing thing. Aside from that, it just, why not use some other concuss ability? The Haunt, okay, it's info, I can understand that, and it's a little bit more mobile. Ult is really good too, so I think just these two are weak. I think she needs a change to both of those. Harbor, I like that they're buffing some of these, but the only thing that I question is, why did you make two of the waves? Like, I think the wave was a very niche situation, because, I mean, at this point, if I'm going to use the wave, I'm just going to use it to quickly take stuff, but, like, why do that when I could just use my Q and it can absorb the damage while I do it too? I guess, yeah, bigger radius and whatnot. This concussing ult, I could understand it a little bit. It's not bad. This wall, I love this wall. Pretty good. So, Jet, we're not going to talk on the Jet nerfs. Jet nerfs, oof. They didn't have to hit her this hard either. You could have left her alone a little bit. Maybe the dash changes were fine. Cloudburst, why not have the 3 smokes? Like, why? Yes, I know that Riot gave arguments for some of these, but I don't agree with them. within that. The Jet Knights, I think, are also a little too accurate. A little bit, but if you don't touch them, I can understand that. Kale. Kale's pretty good agent. I think he's fine within that. Killjoy, I like the buffs that she received within that, but also I don't like the nerf. Like, why only restrict her to one site now? Yeah, like there's no need. You just basically got rid of everything that Killjoy stood for. Was I could set up a turret or alarm bot on one site and go defend the other site. Now it's like she's solo holding a site. I think they only did that to compete with Cypher, who could do it within that. I'm like, I mean, they can both still be competitive and both be able to have setups on both sites. And quite honestly, if you did it within that, that's pretty powerful. Yeah. And powerful in a good way, because that's just lots of info. Lots of that. I mean, did it affect Killjoy too much? No, she's still pretty a big menace, but it's just inconvenient. It's just like, why not have it? Like, I think that was the biggest change. That was, like, I think out of every single character change, that was the one that just made me go, what? But, okay. But, I mean, definitely not unusable at all. Still very powerful, but it's just not to the power potential as why not just set up on both sides. Yeah. And again, if you're going to have both of these characters, again, it's the same argument. Instead of endlessly trying to balance these, at this point, then just remove one completely from the game. If you're wanting to have ones, if you think that Killjoy of the past, where she could set up on both sides, was too much like Cypher, so you nerfed it because of that to do people for Cypher, then delete Killjoy and make people gather info only from Cypher, or do it vice versa. Yeah, or learn to live with both and just nerf maybe a little bit of maybe some damage or something within that. Yeah, but I think that's actually a good combo to have both of these, because they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Killjoy's info gathering abilities are more damage based, where Cypher's is more actual info gathering. I think both of these info gatherings combined is very powerful in a good way. Yeah. So, I have just no idea. Neon, the only thing I could say about that is nerf this ult, please. I'm tired of getting sniped from long range with this freaking ult. Yeah, she puts in any movement in there. If you cannot strafe or counter strafe to any good degree that's not a way above average, you're gonna get destroyed by this. And people are just saying just counter strafe her and just hit that headshot. I'm like, no, because half the time that's what I tried to do, and that does not work. Yeah, this ability is just way too powerful. Yeah. So, okay. Omen, Open nerfs. I don't think I recall what last Omen nerf buffs or nerf was. I think that he's fine where he is, and we come to the end of that. And last thing before I make that is the weapon changes again. Let's just briefly go over the classic is fine. They made some changes to classic right click. However, even still now, I don't think classic right click's very reliable. Shorty, I don't think Shorty's really been touched at all except for the price change. And okay, I just think Shorty is such a niche weapon that it's trash because it's such a niche weapon. It's just why do it? You have to force yourself to play into engagements that would benefit the shorty when you could just not, when you could play like longer angles and still get value. Yeah, shorty's not a good weapon, guys. Yeah, another video on that time. Frenzy got practically deleted, except for if you know how to tap fire, and in some situations, this is the gun that's probably, besides the Spectre, I think is most subject to RNG in the entire game. Is the Frenzy. I used to remember when that was good. Ghost is fine. Sheriff within that. The Stinger changes. I like how they buffed this. This is now, I think, way better than Spectre. Spectre's getting deleted, I think, in my case, which is good. Get this out of here. Bucky. Let's talk about the meme weapon. Bucky. Yeah. Apparently this can still one tap from a good range, or even up close to the body. But it's right click. Aside from that, it's pretty useless. Its right click got deleted into the ground, where, I mean, one left click from pretty far away does more damage than like 3 right clicks, right? I'm like, then just remove that ability from that. Yeah, there's no. Plus, you had the Judge, which exists, which I think is a little bit better than the Bucky. But Bucky does more damage, but the Judge surprises me because it people used it in the same situations as the Bucky and still. This apparently, I'm just surprised, can actually one tap at the ranges that it does. Like, I got one tap like 4 shots to a body, full armor, once within this point blank range, and it still killed me. It's like, what was it, like, was it 156 or something like that? I have no idea, but it was full armored, so apparently the Judge can do that, and they didn't buff or nerf the damage that I know of. So, oof. Yeah, but the Bucky is the main star on this. They just rammed that hard into the ground. Did they need to do that? I don't know. I don't know if I know either way. I would just say is, if you're gonna nerf it that hard, just remove it at that point. Don't just make it that bad. But Judge just made it okay. Bulldog bots were good. Guardian just, there's really haven't been any changes. There's really been no changes to Phantom Vandal onto that, and I don't think they really need any. I will also come back in another video and debate that I think Phantom is infinitely better than a Vandal. But that one, Marshall's just always been good. Operator, the price changes, very interesting. Ares, why did you re-nerf the Ares? When you buffed it, it was in a really good spot. People used the Ares because you nerfed it, or you buffed it really, really well, right? Yet, I think that it was not overpowered. It was just really, really good, and in a place that it needed to be. And Odin's fine. So, in conclusion, why did I make you sit through like probably 20 minutes of all of that, if not more? Is the way the Riot has been hitting some of these with buffs or nerfs is just, I think that it's a little bit out of control. I can probably understand for some of these balance, but I don't think that they're actually, that anything yet in this game has actually been that well balanced. Yes, because it always asks whenever you buff or nerf, unless you make it equal, absolutely equal to another one, is just, why have the other one exist in that case? Unless if it really does something the other one can't, like a weapon or a agent or an agent. But in that case, if you're going to make it to where, let's say the Cypher and the Killjoy here, if you're going to make them equal, at that point is why have one when the other one doesn't exist. If you're going to buff or nerf them, make sure that if you're gonna make one more viable than the other, make sure that the other one, for what it can do, still does it really well. When you drilled Cypher into ground, he actually, for what he did, because these two are so similar, if you made these two different kits and then made them on the same power level ish, same idea of like gathering info, but in two completely different ways. These actually have, believe it or not, similar, not the exact. There's a difference between similar and exact. But they're similar enough in ways that it's just why use one over the other at this point, which even I would say maybe there's some ways for Cypher. If you had this back into where Killjoy was set up both sides, and you had Cypher, even the Cypher today or even of the past, it's just like, just always go with Killjoy at that point, because her info gathering abilities can do damage. That can do damage, that can do damage. That helps lock down when you need that. And then Nanoswarm is just a good one. Where Cypher's is, it's just a cage, Tripwire does it, and boom, the camera. Which I think that at the state it's at now, I think now it's a little bit more balanced, but it's just now like, why doesn't Killjoy have that same? Yeah, it's a back and forth, and this is why I wish these two now just had two completely different kits, like they weren't info gatherers. Yeah. Because now why would you use Cypher? So you can use trap wires on two different sites if you want, and you can have that camera within that. We're not going to really talk about that, and you have that info. Now it's like, if you want point defense type of thing, you want to lock down one site, you use Killjoy. But that she still gathers info and whatnot. And you have to make it drastic. I think that if that's the rate that you want to go, to really make us have to choose which one to use, you absolutely nerf to the ground one of these other ones, but still not in a way that detriments their own kit, but compared to the competitor. Yes, those are two separate things. Yes, Cypher could be really, really good, but compared to Killjoy is trash. Yes, with making it be Cypher does something unique, i.e. have gathering info, ability to gather info on two different sites. Killjoy, point defense, as opposed to both of these on here, where, and then you don't touch any of these other ones except for, so how would you make that be? You do exactly what you just did. You make Killjoy have point defense, and then you have Cypher have both, but then you don't touch these. Yeah. Or you do actually, then you bring back the Cypher buff within that, and you don't touch Killjoy at all, which I think the rebuff of Cypher and Killjoy staying the same is probably the balance that you needed. But I mean, then you do that, and then Killjoy, I think if it was introduced where you couldn't have done that, if Killjoy was introduced just this way, I think that would have been the proper balance. But since Riot has in the past allowed Killjoy to be set up on both sides, now my question for eternity is, why not bring that back? Because then you delete Cypher. If you don't do that, now you have competition between both of these. And now at this point it's saying, I don't think one of these is better than the other. I think right now it's balanced. I just the fact that Killjoy even had in the past the ability to set up one site and then go defend the other site, or put these on different sites. It's just the fact that I now know that if you played back then is just why not have done that? Yeah. Because if it was like how the Killjoy is now, maybe then so people would be like, ooh, what would happen if we could set up on both sides? And then Riot would be like, no, because Cypher exists. And that would be like, okay, if we want to do that, play Cypher. But no, you nerfed Killjoy from that strength. And you rebut Cypher, which, yes, that made the balance. Yes, I'm not denying that. That's really good. Yeah, you left it at that. Yeah. But the fact that I still know that you allowed Killjoy to do both will bother me for eternity. Yeah. That's the type of balancing that Riot does that just annoys me. Yeah. And the same thing with... Now, I think some bits of the community, I think community sleeps on a lot of these things like Fade. Everybody thought and believed when Fade came out and started playing that it was a successor to Sova. No, so I think Sova's still better than Fade, or can be used in conjunction. I just think this is an example of two kits that are absolutely unique, that you don't need to worry really about competition. Is Sova better? Yes, because he does things in unique. You want ultimate info gathering? Yeah, use Sova. You want info gathering and a blind? Use Sky then, or because she has these two things. That's unique to her, or these three. Yeah. Sova can do similar things, actually probably a little bit better, and flush things out. Fade has one info gathering, maybe two if you did that, and a really good ult. Yes, she's unique. She's not better than Sova. She doesn't even... You don't have to do that to compete with Sova, and she never will. Like, Sova can't compete with Sky in their own way, and Sky can't compete with Sova. They have their own roles, and that is what balance is. Yes, you don't need every character, even in their own roles or with each other, to compete with each other, because then it's just like, why just use one or the other? Yes, make each kit unique. Yes, so the final point in this, let's go over all the... So Sova, as I just mentioned, you want to use Sova for info? Yeah, he has his own unique set. He could do some damage, he could scout out some areas, recon bolts, the ultimate thing. You want to use some other... Let's compare it to just other initiators. Yes, this is gonna go much faster. Sky, why would you want to use Sky? Maybe you want to heal on top of that. Trailblazer, you can control... I mean, yes, with a drone you can, but you can also control where your info goes, and it deals 30 damage when it comes in contact. You could also use her blinds as info, because it makes that audible cue, and you flash them. So they're both flash and info gathering. That's different than Sova. Yep. Her ult, practically the same thing. Yes. Let's compare it to Fade. You want info gathering? Fine. She could gather info. That creates fear trails when you do it, making the Prowler be able to go after them and attack them. Yeah. You want to hold them in place while you blind them? Fine. You use that. You want a full sight of info? Use her ult. Yeah. Different purposes. And then Breach, you want flash? Fine. You don't have the range like Sky, which makes it unique, but you still have a powerful flash if used correctly. You have something that can flush them out, pretty powerful ability, something that concusses really well, and basically a free sight right there, especially combined with other things. Yeah, you don't need to make Breach compete with Sky or whatnot. He's already unique on his own. Characters can have flashes, and you don't have to compete with the flashes on each one. I think a flash should be just a flash, like in CSGO. Just a flash is a flash. There's no time difference in every single flash. It's flash, it flashes you for this duration or whatnot. So Breach has its own separate, and then KO, where's KO? KO has flashes, unique flashes, make you think about one of these. You have a Molly, and you have a short info gathering plus suppress ability, and you also have suppress. Yes, this in just design of characters is how you balance agents. Yes, their own uniqueness. Now, you only buff them due to their individual gameplay. You don't do it to compete with these other ones. You leave them as is. Yes, make us have options. That's how you compete with stuff, is have options. Don't make one option better than the other. Make each option unique, and then competition will follow. Because then you'll really wonder which is better, and the answer should always be none of them, because they're unique. Yeah. So basically what I then am saying is, yes, am I saying make a Molly, like same damage, same range, all of that? Yes, I am saying that. Make a Flash. Yes. Then change that one or two other unique ability. Maybe you can argue with some of the flashes, with some of the rain. You could probably argue that. I think the Molly should just be Mollies. I don't know why you need like 3 different variants of a Molly. It doesn't really, because then you'd think, just why not use this or whatnot. Flash, I can understand that argument, so I kind of retract that one. But then you have that 1 or 2 unique abilities to that. Yeah, that's how you do it. That will generate competition as it is. Yeah. Let's talk about the Sentinels within that. I already talked about Cypher Killjoy. Sage really is a little bit of an outlier within this, but if you want truly defensive with like healing, the ability to res, slow orbs, I'm not just why, and the wall. Yeah, you wall off something, you have sight locked out. They can't do that. Yep, I think Sage is just so uniquely different from all the other Sentinels that it's fun. You don't need to compete with them with that. I think Sage just competes either A with Sky or just with the rest of the group because of that. Which I still think if you just left her as the same, she'd be fine. Yep. And lastly, Chamber is way uniquely different in a bad way. It tries to be an info gatherer, and it tries to be a duelist with these. And I don't even know what you call this with the teleport. Let's skip past that. And then let's talk controller and duelist. Controllers. Brimstone has its own. Stim Beacon's unique. Molly is a Molly. I like the ult idea and the smoke. Yeah. Smokes, I think maybe they should be a little bit unique. Maybe have 3 smokes. Okay. Two. I think then in 2 smokes. Here's the thing, because Omen competes with Brimstone a lot, and I just think Brimstone has a lot more to his kit than Omen, because longer lasting. Do you want longer lasting smokes and plus 1 more smoke? Do you want Omen can put the smokes anywhere in further range than Brimstone? I think if you put 3 smokes to Brimstone, 3 smokes to Omen, put them both at 20 seconds, or however long Brim's is, that's competition there, because you have the uniqueness of this smoke where the range is then the thing that you change. Range for Omen smoke is almost unlimited, and while yes, extended, Brim's is not. Yep. Then you have just the one that blows it out of the water, Astra. Yep. Her smokes can be placed truly can be placed anywhere on the map. And also you can use that to concuss and stun, whatnot, or suck in. And then you have a wall. This wall that you can't hear and you can't shoot through. Yeah. A really good sight taker. So in that case is just now you have potentially 4 smokes, which you can't deploy. You can deploy at once, but you can't activate. There's a uniqueness, and I think these smokes are even longer than Brim's. I'm not sure. But then you have, like, why do that? Do you want 4 potential smokes? But within that and all of this, I think Astra, that's an interesting one. Yeah. But then you have Viper, who's very unique because you have a really good wall. You have a sort of a smoke, more like I called, as opposed to a smoke, and then there's a sight or sightline blocker. This is more of a sightline blocker than a true smoke. Yeah. Then you have uniqueness. Yes, I think Astra and Viper, as far as what controllers can do, really are the most unique out of that. Yes, and don't really need competition with each other. Astra makes me question why with Omen, and then why again with Brimstone, and Harbor again is just probably a little bit reworked to Viper, where Viper is a good, I could argue with Harbor on this because one's not better or another, they're just good in tandem. Yep. So that's the balance. And then finally the duelists. I think the duelists are pretty unique in that way. I think the duelists are the most balanced ones out of all of them. Not trying to compete, because why they're well picked is because they serve different playstyles. While yes, they're more on the aggressive fraggers overall as a group, each one is so unique. You want teleportation, you want flashes, you want some bit of info plus outplay potential, and a flash and outplay potential. Oh my goodness, you have Yoru. Raze could flush things out of pockets, plus a little bit of mobility, a little bit of info gathering. Phoenix, which has a little bit of everything for that, but my question with Phoenix is why not use the other characters? Reyna, who's just self-sufficient, and Jet, who's actually pretty darn good, with the mobility to quick attack and then smoke and reposition really well. And then Neon was just block off sightline, concuss, and mobility. Yeah. So in conclusion, right, fix how you balance stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there's equality in it doesn't really fix the competitiveness for that. So let me know what you guys think. See you guys in the next.